Just letting everybody know that I've started the live stream.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Pig. Good morning, Miss Terry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Tisworth. Turn your volume on.
Good morning, everyone. Do we have a quorum yet?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Okay, all right. I'll keep waiting.
Ms. Tisworth, you had it unmuted. You just had it unmuted and then it muted again.
Click your little audio button down in the left-hand corner. It looks like, there you go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, great. We can hear you now. Great.
So, Jackie, we don't have a quorum yet. Hurry up.
Okay.
1, 2. There you go.
Miss Jacqueline, Miss Jackson.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
right, I think we're good.
So we have 1, 2, 3.
No, we have four. I see Miss Lane. She hasn't said anything yet. So we have Miss Williams, Miss Tisworth, Miss Jackson, and Miss Lane.
Okay, you all ready? All right. All right, good morning and welcome to our special board meeting, November 8th, 2025. Ms. King, may we have a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Williams,
Present?
Miss Tisworth,
Present.
Miss Lane, Miss Jackson.
Here.
I'm here. Oh, great. Good to see you, Miss Lane.
Thank you. Good to be seen.
All right. All right, thanks. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved by Ms. Tisworth and seconded by Ms. Jackson to approve the agenda. Next on the agenda, so I'm sorry, is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Roll call vote, please, Ms. King.
Miss Tisworth,
Yes.
Miss Lane,
Yes.
Miss Jackson,
Yes.
Miss Williams.
Yes. Okay. Moving kind of fast today. Now we will move to our items for discussion. The first item on the agenda today we have are the board norms. And of course, we know this is a document that we have been working on. Making sure that we're just updating our norms. And for the board members, the only thing that I added was some language, which was under cohesive teams for number 5. We had a note there that said replace the language from the sample document. So that was the only thing that I added to the document. And it says, we will model Robert's Rules of Order, conduct ourselves professionally, and use our time efficiently and constructively. That was the only thing that I added. And then under number 2, number 4, honoring and supporting the board's decision at all times, aligned with board policies and procedures. And it has Dr. May, and it says use the language from document. And as I was going back through, I could not figure out which language we were going to put there to substitute for what was in the document. So does anyone remember? And I went back through the document. I read back through the whole thing to see what we were talking about for that one, but I could not figure it out. Does anyone remember what Dr. May was wanting there under section 2, number 4?
I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't either. Other than that, were there any other questions about the board norms? Anything else that we worked on that someone had a comment or a question about, or maybe wanted to add or have more discussion about it?
You had put in one of the I don't know if it's the before the cohesiveness or if it was on the first one. We was putting the students first.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
I remember we talked about it. Let's see, where were we? Do you know where we were talking about putting that? Because that is, we put it under cohesive teams. Ms. Tisworth, number 1, we will remember to put students at the center of every decision. So we have that in the norms.
Okay.
We included that. And does everyone have the document pulled up, or do you all want me to share my screen and read it so we can make sure we're all on the same page?
Can you share the screen, please?
Okay, I will do that. Ms. King, can you give me rights to share, please?
Tom, can you give Miss Williams rights to share her screen?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Mm. I'll make you a co-host. Go ahead and see if you can do it now, Monica.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, can everyone see the norms?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the first section, cohesive teams. We will remember to put students at the center of every decision. Number 2, pause after someone speaks to hear all voices. Number 3, consider and respect all opinions without judgment. Number 4, strive to assume positive intentions from all members. We had in parentheses, someone said, personally, I would remove this completely, but we can strive for this assumption. So when we look at number 4, again, strive to assume positive intentions for all members. And so that's one we need to discuss. Do we want to keep that one in or do we want to take that one out? And we'll come back to that one. And number 5, this is the one that I just read. The board will honor the board policy related to implementation of Robert's Rules of Order, because we already have that in our board policy BCB. So I added the language in red from the document that we had from the other school district. We will model Robert's Rules of Order, conduct ourselves professionally, and use our time efficiently and constructively. So that's what you see in red that will replace number 5. The next one, collective agreement. The board will honor, and we already have in policy BBF, school board member ethics, and so that's what that one is about. Number 2, use collective voices to reach decisions. Number 3, honor and respect the work of the board. And then number 4, this is the one where I don't have the language for it because I'm not sure what the intent. I think I know what the intent was here, but I don't have it. Honoring and supporting the board decision at all times. And so if anyone remembers what Dr. May was wanting for the language here, if anyone remembers, we can just add it. If not, my recommendation would be we just put it on our agenda, our work session agenda one more time, and then we complete this exercise. The next one, be prepared for meetings. The board will review the packet details and submit questions within the established time frame. Questions at meetings should be limited and specific to information not presented in the packet details. So there might be some discussion around that. I think sometimes there will be questions that were in the packet details, or maybe you thought about something later, or maybe there was just so much information. Maybe you thought you had a understanding of the information. Then as the discussion progresses, then you're like, oh, I do have a question about that. So I don't know about the limited part, because board members should be able to ask questions, when they have questions. And sometimes I know for me, when you're reading the board items, you don't always get it and understand it all until someone starts explaining it. So sometimes you don't know what questions to ask or submit in advance. So as much as I think I understand the intent of that, I would not want anyone to feel limited that they can't ask a question because now there's some new details or they just didn't understand fully the information that was in the packet. So that's what I wanted to say about that one. Number 2, no surprises at board meetings. Extend courtesy for each member's questions. That means no one board member always speaks first. And so what I thought about number 2 is really more or less of a protocol. We could have a protocol in place. I know some board, when I was at the board conference, some of them actually use like a little fan. It looks like a fan, like you get in church. It's not that. And so when a board member is wanting to speak, they raise it up and then the board chair will recognize them. And that's one way of knowing. But I think here, a protocol, we probably would like to have a protocol, but I do want to make sure all members, their voices are heard. And anybody can jump in at any time if you have any questions. I'm just going through the different ones. The next one, number 3, members of the board should arrive 10 minutes prior to the start of meetings if possible. And my comment about that one was, it matters to me not what time people come in, just that they're ready to go at the start time. But we can still keep that on if that's really important. Number 4, administration will release board packets to the RGS Board of Education within the identified time frame. And so that, I think that's important, and they've been doing that. The 4th section, not allow outside entities to dictate board actions. RGSD Board of Education decisions will be made based on facts, policies, and procedures, not individual opinions or requests. And I think that's good. And I think we do a good job with that. Number 2, educate and encourage the community to follow proper protocols for voicing concerns, which is really important. Whatever the procedure is, if you go to administration first before coming to the board, we just redirect people back to administration and give them an opportunity to resolve issues. We know we have a public comment section on our board agenda. All of that, we can encourage community members to use that. And that is all we have. Any discussion, comments, changes?
Do we have to read it, or could we just have it posted and just have it in policy and procedure?
So from my understanding, that's a decision of the board, which was made before I became a board member. So I'm not sure how it got on the board agenda as a part of the board agenda. I know some boards do it and some don't. So I just think as a board, we have to decide how we want to handle this. If it's something I personally like it, but I can go either way, long as I know what the expectation is. Anybody else?
Yes, Monica, I'm sorry. Was you talking, Ms. Lane? I'm sorry, you can go first.
No, go ahead, Ms. Jackson.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm driving too, y'all. So if y'all see me moving around, because I'm driving. I have no problem with the board norms. My biggest thing with the board norms is, one, they were implemented when me and Sharon Hisworth and Miranda came on the board 3 years ago. Before then, the board did not have norms and they were not reading them. My thing is that as a district and as a public sitting in the audience, I wouldn't care about y'all reading y'all board norms, because those are y'all norms. Those are our norms. They're not for them to care about. But it seems it's bad to me when we read them and then 10 minutes into our meeting, we break them. To me, that's the bad part about it. I would rather have them see them posted somewhere where people can know what our norms are than us to read them and tell them, hey, this is what we're going to go by. And then 10 minutes into our meeting, we do not go by those norms. And this has been an ongoing thing for the last 3 years. We do not go by those norms. Within 10 minutes, they're out the window. So why are we reading them? Why are we telling them that we're going to do them? We're not doing them. So I think what Ms. Sharon suggested was a good idea. Maybe we can post it somewhere where, get them laminated and post them somewhere, but not read them, because when reading those, we're telling them that once we start this meeting, this is what we're going to do. And we have not been doing that.
Ms. Jackson, thank you for your comments. Did I have another hand raised? I thought, Dr. Patton, were you going to chime in?
Yes, I was just going to share, Ms. Williams, that these board norms, when the board went from 3 members to 5 to 7, that's when it was recommended that the board norms be established. And then it was recommended by MSBA, who did the training for the board, that they're read right before every board meeting. Of course, I am in agreement with whatever the board decides to do, but I just wanted to give some background as to when the board norms came in and then why we read them. It was just a suggestion from MSBA that they're read before the board meeting.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patton.
I don't see where to raise my hand, Chair. How do I do that?
It should be along the bottom.
Under more?
It might be under more on yours. I can't see mine because I have my screen up sharing. It's usually under, let's see.
Ms. Lane, it looks like it might be under React. Do you have the word
Yes,
React?
I do. Thank you. It is.
And you can go ahead. Are you raising your hand?
Yes, I'm trying.
Okay, go right ahead.
Trying.
Okay.
In addition to what the superintendent just stated, I think it's not, I believe that it's a foundation for us to, as a board, strive to do. It projects order, it projects cooperation. I think the public would benefit in knowing that we are basically trying to work together and do the right thing. The more complicated question comes into regarding Ms. Jackson's comments. What happens when we do not follow these norms? And that's a little trickier. And I'm not trying to get into the weeds. It's just if we don't mean it from our heart, we're actually trying to do these things. It is just suggested. But it's just a good suggestion. Again, it's about the foundation of what we really believe in. And I know that many districts do have it. And when we were in training, I also remember there are some districts that do some self-evaluations, which is something that we've never really done. To my knowledge, the way I heard it presented in Kansas City anyway. So this, I think, is an ongoing kind of process.
Thank you, Ms. Lane, for your comments. Anyone else have any comments about the board norms? I know we spent a lot of sessions working on this, and so we put it on a Saturday because we didn't want to spend a lot of time doing the work session, going over this and trying to update it because it takes time. But when I look at this, I think it looks really good. I don't know if we're at a place where we can make a decision today because we have some board members that were unable to attend, and so they've been excused from our meeting for today. But I would recommend that we try to give this one more one more shot at it when everyone is here, and then we table it and we put it to rest. And then all of the discussions that we've had, we go through it one more time, make sure it's clean. We also consider what Ms. Tisworth and Ms. Jackson talked about in terms of following the norms, and also Ms. Lane, because really we have to hold ourselves accountable. And it's hard to sometimes correct other adults because people don't like that. But this is the document that we should follow. You should be able to correct yourself if you're out of order because you have the document in front of you with the norm. So I would say that's all I have to say for our discussion today. Is there anything else regarding the discussion of the board norms?
Last thing, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
Do the vice president has to read that?
So Ms. Tisworth, what we can do is, and I'm putting all these questions down in our notes, when we take our last pass through it, then I think that's when we can make decisions, additional decisions.
But, okay, as far as these norms is concerned, I think that it's 4 of us and we should be able to vote on the norms. Those people that's not here, it's not here by choice or whatever happened. With 4 of us, it's a quorum. If we vote to accept these norms right now, that should be it. We shouldn't have to keep going over and over and over.
Well, Ms. Tisworth, you can do that. You just have to make a motion. Yeah. If someone makes a motion, yeah, it's okay. I was just, as part of the discussion, I was just telling you where I am with this. But yeah, you can always make a motion and we can move forward. Was there someone else? I thought I heard someone else speaking.
It was me, Wanda.
Okay.
In addition to when we first started this, there was discussion about having these norms posted in the boardroom. And that just never happened.
Okay.
I don't know the relevancy of it, but there was discussion about doing that.
Okay.
So Ms. Lane, we can make sure that they are, once they're finalized, that they are typed up and shared individually with everyone during every board meeting, as well as posted. I do believe that they're important, and I think that with when you look at the historical perspective of Riverview Gardens, they had historically had for the last 15, 18 years or so had 3 board members. And so it was because we were under state control. When we gained control back, that's when the norms were established. I think every board member, every superintendent that I've spoken with, they do have norms. Theirs have just been established over the years, and so there's no need to continue to read them because they didn't have 18 years of state control. And so once we get these established and we're reading them, and then and they're being followed, then I think it becomes less and less important to read them. I just wanted to share that as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patton, for the additional information. So I would say at this
Excuse me, can I say something? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm driving. I can't hit these buttons. I'm trying to, but I can't.
Go ahead.
I like what Dr. Patton said, that why can't we just give them to every board member and then have them posted, because they are for us. And my biggest thing is that when we read those board norms and then we break them, there's nothing, like Mr. Lane said, there's nothing. What do? We just break them and we just go on like we didn't break them, but we didn't read it to them and everybody's expecting us to follow them. But if we know them, if we make it a mindset to read them every time before we go to a board member, then that's our accountability. But when we're telling them this is what we're going to do and then we don't do that, that kind of looks bad. That looks really bad for us as a board, as a all, because we are one band, one sound. So it's not just one board member that break it. Yeah, that one board member may be the one that didn't follow it, but it looks bad on all of us. So thank you, Dr. Penn. That was a good suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate you all's comments. So I want to go back because it sounds like that we might have a motion today to accept the board norms. I just want to make sure that if we're heading that direction, let's have a motion, and then we will continue to discuss. And what I mean by discuss is we will clean this up and then we can try to move forward, see where we land. Okay, so if someone would like to make a motion to accept the board norms.
I would like to make a motion to accept the board norms as written. Since that this is what the state requires us to do, I think we should do it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if they require us to read them, I think we should read them if that's what they require.
Okay.
And I think we should just go ahead on and accept these norms. They sound good to me.
Okay. All right. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. All right. A motion has been moved by Ms. Tisworth and seconded by Ms. Lane to accept our board norms. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. King, may I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Tisworth,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
and Ms. Williams.
Yes. The motion passes. The board norms have been accepted. Okay. Next, we will move on to in our agenda.
Our next item up for discussion, board members, is our quarterly budget update. Making this presentation is Ms. Stephanie Terry. Ms. Terry, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes. This little block in the way is making it, okay, technology, folks. Okay, can you guys see the screen?
We can. Can you put it in presentation form?
Yes.
There we go. There you go.
Okay, good morning, board president, board members, superintendent, and colleagues. I will be presenting Riverview Garden School District's FY 25-26 quarterly budget report. The district's goal is to stay transparent, keep the board informed, and ensure we remain proactive and strategic in our financial planning. So this is the agenda. We will begin discussing the budget categories, talk about the revenues and expenditures, analyze the structural gap, discuss the end of ESSER, staffing versus enrollment, and outline strategic recommendations moving forward. So when comparing one fiscal year to the next, budgets typically fall into three categories annually. First, the budget deficit is when the expenses exceed the revenues. That means the district is spending more than it receives. So the impact to the fund balance is a decrease. So our action would be to, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to close one screen. I can't see my whole screen. I can't see. Okay. So our action as a district is to cut costs or use our reserves. Budget surplus is when your revenues are greater than your expenditures. This means the district is bringing in more than it spends, which means it increases the fund balance. And it is for us to save or invest in priorities at that time. And the last option is a balanced budget where our revenues equals our expenditures. This means the district spending matches what it receives. This stabilizes our fund balance, and it makes us maintain our fiscal discipline. This provides the framework for understanding where we stand today as a district. So I attempted to break down the FY 25-26 projected gap for better understanding. So on the left side, we're going to talk about the reality. So as a district, we're projected to receive $68.8 million for the fiscal year for 25-26, $68.8 million. We projected to spend $75.8 million. The end of the year balance would be -$7 million. So that is how we derive the $7 million that we need to balance the budget. If our expenditures are greater than our revenues, that equals a budget deficit. And that is the reality of where our spending is. The second half of the screen is we're going to put the fund balance into play, which is our savings. So our beginning balance is $20.4 million. When you take your $24 million and our revenue, which our revenue is $68.8 million, when you combine the fund balance, which is our savings, and our revenues, then we have $89.3 million available. Fund 1 and 2 expenditures, we would then subtract our $75.8 million, which would leave us at an end of year balance of $13.4 million, or as we've been saying, a projected fund balance of 17.04%. So to cover the deficit, we draw down from our reserves, which is our savings, for the estimated $13.4 million of fund balance. This keeps us above the state recommended minimum, but I want to be very clear that we are approaching a financial pressure point for FY 26-27 and beyond. DESE calculates our overall fund balance using several funds combined. Right now, the food service fund is helping us to stay compliant. However, the food service funds are masking our true operating deficit. The concern is that the general and teachers fund, which make up our core operating budgets, are shrinking each year. A percentage of the fund balance is restricted for specific use. As expenditures continue to outpace revenues, the unrestricted portion faces a risk of depletion. Our current spending trajectory is not sustainable without strategic action. So I wanted to go over there so that everybody clearly understands when we say that we have $7 million to stabilize, we need $7 million to stabilize the district, or to cut $7 million. And this slide is just a summary of the first slide. I know people like to see information different ways. So the first one was a visual representation, and this is just wording, and it's saying the exact same thing. So the Riverview Garden School District revenue sources, This is just a visual representation of the projected revenue that we're projected to receive based on all revenue sources for this year. So if you look at the local revenue, we're projected to receive 29.3 million. And as of to date, as of 10/28, I believe, we've received 16.2% of that local revenue. And for our county, we're expected to receive $955,219. Of that, we received 4.9% of that revenue to date. And for our state revenue, we're projected to receive 29.8 million, and we've collected 30.1% of that state revenue to date. And federal, we're projected to receive 11.9 million, and of that we've collected 18%. And other local revenue, we are projected to receive 155,000, and we collected approximately about 55.1%. And that's just a summary. So, Riverview Gardens School District, I wanted to try to visualize how we receive money. So I created this chart to kind of give a summary of how we spend, of how we receive money, who sets the amount, who collects, how it's distributed, and examples, and the percentage of funding. So for example, if you look at our state funding, so that is who sets the amount, typically Missouri legislature, and DESE based on the funding formula, who collects the Missouri Department of Revenue in a form of like taxes, lottery, is allocated through the foundation formula and transportation aid. And it's a formula that each school that we receive based on our average daily attendance, on how we receive the money. And currently we're projected to receive 29.8% of our revenue from state funding. So this is more informational. I put this in as a resource for everyone so they could kind of clearly see the revenue sources that we're receiving and the breakdown of those revenue sources. So Riverview Gardens School District revenue projections. This is a year-over-year projection. So this was based on our FY26 adopted budget that was approved for July on 6/30 for July 1 budget. If you look at the local, each revenue source in comparison to the previous year, you can see, for instance, federal ESSER. As we all know, we're not receiving any additional ESSER money. So in the variance column, you'll see it's 100% change because we're not allocated to receive any type of ESSER money. And there's very little change in local. County, it's 44.61%, but that, I will state, the county was based on a timing issue. So in FY24-25, we received 2 payments because we did not receive 1 payment in 23-24. So it's back at its normal collection rate. So that is normal. So that shouldn't be a large percent. It was skewed based on the year prior. And as you can see, that the federal, it looks like at a, we were scheduled to have a slight increase, but as we all know, Ms. Curtis brought it back to the board. And so those numbers are probably going to change slightly. And just a reminder that budgets are dynamic documents. Amendments are normal and necessary as conditions change, and we continue to revise throughout the year to stay aligned with actual revenues and ensure compliance. So my next step is to start working through with amendments and making adjustments that are more in alignment with what we're going to actually be receiving for the district. So this is just the data broken down again for people who like to see it different ways. This is by fund. Again, as I indicated, Fund 12, 20, 50, and 61 that are highlighted are all the funds that are used by DESE to calculate the district's fund balance. When you look at it, Fund 50 and Fund 61 are restricted. So we can only use those funds for example, food service. We can only use those funds for food service, and student activity funds can only be used for student activities within the school. So that's why we call those restricted funds. And this is the information broken down even further by source fund and object code. So the highlights for the revenue summary: the district has received approximately 23% of the total budget revenues to date. The trend remains stable and predictable for this stage of the fiscal year. I will continue to monitor monthly to ensure alignment with the 25-26 projections. And I have one of my concerns about, not one concern, but one of the most recent concerns are the senior tax rate freeze impact. Well, I did finally receive the impact report, and for the Riverview School District, it's $105,000 that we will not receive in revenue due to the senior tax rate freeze. So how does Riverview Gardens spend money? So this is a summary of our expenditures to date. We projected at the beginning of the year that we would spend about $39.7 million in district salaries. And of that, we spent $12.4 million to date. In benefits, we projected $14 million, and we spent $4.1 to date. For purchase services, we project $15.4 million, and we spent $4.3 to date. For general supplies and materials, we projected $5.9 million, and we spent $1.5 million to date. Capital outlay, we projected $22.2 million, and we spent $9 million, approximately $9 million. And keep in mind, capital outlay is where Prop S funding resides. So how Riverview District spends money, this is a breakdown. I've categorized everything and provided a definition. So when I speak about purchase services are amounts paid for services rendered by personnel who are not on the school district's payroll. So a good example of what's categorized in purchase service is the food service contract, nurses, and transportation. Those are the top things that I can name offhand that's included in purchase services. So when you look at the salaries may have gone down, but the purchase services may have increased because we contracted our services out because it was difficult finding staff members to fill those positions. So in this percentage is just a percentage based on what we project to spend for the year. So this is a year-over-year projection. So if you look at the projections, you can see some improvement with the salaries. If you look at the 23-24, our salaries were $53.5 million, but as we all know, that had some ESSER funding tied to it. At the end of 24-25, we are $45.7 million, and that was because strategic cuts were made at the beginning of the year so that the impact wouldn't be as great as $53.5 million. So as you can see, the variances for those are not great, but it has made some adjustments, and our spending should be projected a little less than what we spent in FY25. And this is the expenditure summary again. This is just broken down by fund. And the next slide is by detail. For those who like to dig deep, this is for the details. I tried to present the information so that people can see it in multiple ways. So what I will say is, I know that salaries and benefits account for nearly 60% of our spending, but this is consistent with educational institutions all over the world. But also, as a reminder, as I indicated before, purchase service categories include contracted services that's hard to fill for us, such as food service, transportation, and nurses. And the reality is that schools are people-driven organizations, and the success of the district depends on skills and the well-being and the contribution of its employees. When we invest in people, we invest in schools. Our product is student success, which is delivered by people. So our highlights for the expenditure: the district has spent about 32% of its total budget expenditures to date. Capital project is trending higher due to Prop S projects, consistent, and the spending is consistent and in line with historical trends. And the district is already reducing areas that were moderately easy to reduce. My concern, or the district's concern, is the next phase of reductions will be difficult for everyone involved. However, these steps are essential to maintain the health and future of our district. So the ESSER hangover aftermath for schools. We are not alone in this challenge. Districts nationwide are confronting the same issue. ESSER dollars of funded positions and programs that are now rolling back into the local budget without replacement revenue. To add, decline in enrollment, workforce shortages, and rising operational costs, and the financial landscape has fundamentally shifted. I did also include a video. I'm not sure if you guys had an opportunity to watch the video, but you can watch the video about a school district in Missouri, just basically discuss their potential cuts that they had to do for the school year. So with the new and challenging school finance landscape, these are the issues. Student and CFO stressed about budget. End of ESSER left holes in the budget. Enrollment is down. School closures are looming. State revenues have tightened. The local appetite for taxes is down. Rising concern for federal funds under our new administration. Schools carrying more staff than ever. Teacher shortage is critical. SPED costs crowding out other spending. Financial dysfunctions plague some districts, and test scores have not recovered. Parents and staff resist budget reductions. This is just data that I found that applies to almost all schools that are experiencing this. So what is the most consequential school finance issue of 2025 that almost everyone in the United States is dealing with? How will school districts downsize their budgets? How will districts reduce labor costs? Will districts close schools? And if they do, which ones? Will districts protect or deplete reserves? Will budget cutting prioritize students? Will districts redirect funds to improve outcomes? Will communities see it coming? Did you know districts have 350,000 more staff than they did in 2019? And I say all of this to note, these are all of the issues that we are dealing with now, as well as globally. So we are not alone. If you look at the staffing versus enrollment trend, this is a graph, this is a chart for Missouri. So across Missouri and the country, districts are seeing a mismatch between staffing levels and enrollment trends. As the student enrollment declines, the staffing increased from 2014-15 to 23-24. For Riverview Garden School District, we must ensure staffing levels align with actual student need, instructional priorities, and enrollment numbers. The district must realign staffing levels to match sustainable enrollment and revenue trends. So ultimately, as a district, as an organization, we have to either increase revenue or reduce our cost. So the next couple of slides are our plans to reduce spending. So if you look at the staffing and personnel, this is our largest expense area. We talked about some of these we already brought to the board, but vacancy freeze, holding on, filling non-critical positions, reduced administration. We have to look at central office and school-based positions, departments, employee reductions across departments, reduced teaching allocations due to the decline in enrollment. As recent as this year, the district has taken a hit and our enrollment is down year over year. Attrition savings do not replace all retirements or resignations unless it's essential. When people leave, it's a time for us to reevaluate the work. Stipend and extra duty review, reevaluate after school stipends, substitutes and overtime usage, classroom adjustments. Small enrollment declines can be absorbed by redistributing class loads rather than keeping all sections open. For insurance, seek lower cost coverage options. And of course, closing Danforth was one that's already in progress, will allow reduction in duplicate positions such as the building administrators, secretaries, and some positions within that building. Consider contracting custodial services to reduce the cost of benefits for Riverview Garden custodial employees. If consideration is given to retaining our personnel. Gradually reduce the SRO contract, and also just reevaluate our contracts that we have and try to fill with those hard to fill areas, plumbers, HVACs, and nurses, to cut those additional contract costs that we have. Programs and services. Program return on investment analysis. We have to eliminate or scale back. It's time to review those programs within the district to see what is the return on investment for us and our kids. We need to consolidate services, share resources across schools, librarians, counselors, or coaches. These are suggestions. These are things that we've brought to the table. Professional development efficiency, use in-house trainers, trainer, virtual sessions, rather than high-cost external vendors. Operations and facilities, transportation review, just reviewing if we can increase ridership on each bus in order to reduce transportation costs. Expand energy measures, which I believe we're currently doing. Closing Danforth allows for a reduction in operational cost of the building, and then repurposing Danforth, consider leasing it to a higher ed education institution to generate revenue for the district. Contracts and procurement, review, vendor review, major review of all contracts within the districts to see where if there's any duplication of services where we can cut costs. We've looked into bulk purchasing, leveraging co-ops for volume discounts instead of the procurement being decentralized. Tighter purchasing controls, justification for non-essential requisitions, and increased scrutiny of purchases. Federal and local funding maximization, bond structure, review bond structure for potential cost savings with our partners such as Stifel. Continue to find grant opportunities to offset costs, and maybe possibly hiring a part-time grant writer where they can just focus on trying to bring grants into the district. Reestablishing the Riverview Foundation, which we've been working, Dr. Patton and I have had 2 meetings with the foundation So we're working to try to reestablish the foundation and then just continue to build community partnerships to offset general fund expenses. And as the finance department and data driven, we will continue to monitor the spending versus the budget, have meetings with principals or at least the department heads, and continue to bring information to the board for transparency purposes. And I know we talked about this, but scenario planning, like perhaps being prepared to say, okay, if we can cut 5% of the budget now for general supplies, maybe that would help if all schools and all departments are doing that. And ultimately for technology, we need to eliminate underutilized educational subscriptions that we have for the district. So the next slide, Riverview Garden School District still needs to cut $7 million to stabilize the district. Our strategic choices that we make today will help us have a stronger foundation for the future. So consequences of inaction. If we do not act, we risk depletion of the reserves, which is our savings. And this will cause difficulty maintaining cash flow between revenue payments, which could result in the district needing, I'm not saying that we are there, I'm just saying will result in a district needing to do tax anticipation notes in the future. Staffing and program cuts, having to cut programs abruptly because we did not plan strategically. Reduce academic support for students, fewer opportunities for the students due to funding, loss of community trust. We have made great strides, but inaction could erase our progress. Potential state oversight. The MSIP 6 monitors the fund balance. If we fall below the threshold, the district could be labeled as financially distressed. So basically, I'm saying all of this to say the cost of inaction is far greater than the discomfort of difficult decisions. So this is a projection. I think I provided this earlier in the year. This is projected future fund balance. So if you look at where we are today, and 24-25, it still says end of year because our audit is not finalized. Our audit would not be finalized until December the 31st. We're projected to end at 24.08%, but moving into the current year, 25-26, we're projected at 17.05. But beyond 2025-26, you see that we're projecting the district to be below the threshold with a 5.16%, negative 7.85, and negative 22.40%. Again, these are all projections, and it's based on if we fail to react, if we fail to make changes. And this is legislative updates. So I did want to mention some of the legislative updates, although some of them we don't know how, where they are in the process. I just wanted to bring them up. So the Missouri School Funding Modernization Task Force. This is a task force that has been put together to discuss the foundation formula rewrite. So this team is comprised of different people throughout the state, and they have to present a final report to the governor by December 2026 with recommendations for state funding. So the foundation formula rewrite is needed because right now Missouri's ranking, if you look at the ranking, we're in 5th for local funding. We rank 5th in the country in percentage of local funding that funds public schools, meaning school districts in Missouri rely heavily on local funding. If you look at our state funding, we rank 50th. We rank last in comparison with the entire United States. We rank last in the percentage of state funding that fund public schools. So definitely, this is the reason for the rewrite. The formula hasn't been rewritten in over 20 years. So more information will be coming. It's too early in the stage right now for us to have any information, but I am tapped in with all resources to stay on top of what the impact will be if we have a foundation formula rewrite. And lastly, the senior tax freeze impact, as I indicated, when I started the presentation, I did not know the number. Right now, the senior tax freeze impact is $105,000 that will impact our district, what we won't receive in revenue this year. And moving forward, if more seniors sign up for the senior tax freeze, it could have greater implications as we move further into each year. So ultimately, Missouri is entering a transition period in K-12 funding. Districts like Riverview Garden must stay proactive, align staffing, spending, and strategy to ensure long-term financial health despite statewide changes in funding, taxation, and accountability. And this is just a Riverview calendar that I included for informational purposes so that we can kind of stay on track with some of the things that we need for the district in terms of budget development, because that will be the next stage in this process, is planning and prepping for the next fiscal year. Questions, but I will say in closing, Riverview Garden School District must reduce expenditures to stabilize and to protect the district fund balance and accreditation status. Our actions must be proactive now. We need to continue to seek cost reduction and revenue opportunities now. We still have work to do. Our work continues with transparency, urgency, and a commitment to students, families, staff, and community. That's all I have. Do we have any questions?
Thank you. I see a hand up from Ms. Lane. I also have a question, and if any other board members, I'm looking for hands, but we'll start with Ms. Lane.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, Ms. Terry, thank you so much for your thorough presentation.
Welcome, thank you.
It was easy to understand and easy to follow, and I appreciate it. So I know hindsight is 2020, but I made some notes. I am curious as to, can you go back to your presentation from the very first page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let me do it, be easier to do it this way. Okay, where do you want me to go?
Oh, okay. No.
Where do you?
The page where we were talking about the ESSER funds, and I think it started in 22. I understand.
So
It's for the, it's that way. It's after this.
okay.
Okay. Okay, this was the one. So under the federal ESSER funds, my question is, and Chair, this is what I don't understand, is were there parameters on how we needed to spend that money, meaning we had to spend it in a certain amount of years or times or dates? Because I recall when I was first elected in 22, I raised questions as to why we were having employment fairs, job fairs. It seemed like every week or every other week on Thursdays. And now after everything that you've presented and the statistics about the percent of all of our budget in salaries and all the cuts we've had to make, can you help me, Madam Chair, understand the rationale and the thinking that was going on back then? Because in 22, you were in HR, and I'm asking for clarity. I just don't understand why we went through this great big, we're hiring, and then now we're crashing behind that. What was the thinking?
Okay, Ms. Lane, so we had positions that were allocated based on our student enrollment. And so the job fairs, we continued to have job fairs because those positions were vacant. So we had substitute teachers in those positions. So that was the reason why we continued to have the job fairs, were to fill the vacancies, but the vacancies were based on student enrollment.
And that has now decreased, which of course we can't, at this point, we're limited on how we respond to that. But we're making some changes. So also, Ms. Terry, under the projected revenue received from St. Louis County, I think I saw we had only received 29% of what we are expecting to for this year. We're in the last quarter. So at the end of this year, like we're gonna get a chunk of change all at once.
So our fiscal year runs to June 30th. So that money will trickle in from now until June the 30th.
Okay, so
and that's why it's important to have a fund balance to carry you through the year until you receive this revenue that comes in.
So we can use the money from the fund balance because we know that the money is coming back and we'll be able to replenish it, correct? Our fund balance.
Well, we won't be able to replenish it in full because we're spending more that we're spending more than we're bringing in as a district.
I remember that.
But it's covering those gaps and those shortfalls. That's technically why you have the fund balance, because if you think about property taxes, we don't get anything in property taxes to after like January, and then some come later than that for delinquent payments. So we need to still be able to operate as a district, and you rely on your fund balance to carry you through.
And now I've seen different data on what percent our fund balance needs to be to operate. Did I see as low as 3%?
No, it's 15% for Riverview Garden School District. The state is 3%. If you go below 3%, then DESE will take over.
Okay, so and we don't want that. So now, Superintendent, at the end of the day, and I know I'm asking for projection. So what are the repercussions and consequences of not being fiscally responsible? Meaning, does DESE come in and say, well, you're operating, your fund balance is now dropped below 15%? What's the worst case scenario?
So, excuse me. So, Ms. Lane, the district has a policy that says we will not drop below 15%. If we as a district drop below 15%, the board must develop a plan to reestablish back to the 15% fund balance. So the repercussions is that if we drop below 15%, that we violate the board policy, and then the board would require me essentially to build a plan to reestablish the fund balance. In terms of the state requires every district to maintain, to go no lower than 3%. The consequences of that is that the state could take over the district, but the state would then require the board to develop a plan to reestablish back to the 3% and above. So our goal is to not drop below the 15% that is required by the district policy. And then definitely we do not want to drop below the 3%, which is why some of the budget reduction ideas were coming forth last week at the last board meeting, and will continue to come forward. As Ms. Terry stated, if we do nothing this year, we will be at 17%. If there are no budget reductions this year, we will be at 17% by the end of FY26, which gives us about a 2% cushion. And then we would still need to make reductions the following year to make sure that we do not drop below the 17%. So this is why I will be bringing a budget reduction to the board over time, because I am trying to keep the board above the 15%. One of the slides that Ms. Terry showed is, I think it was 22, we were at 45%. Well, that time we had $50 million in ESSER funding. The ESSER, you had initially asked, was there a criteria to spend that money? And I'm going to tell you there was a criteria, and we spent it the way we were supposed to. But much of that which would have come out of our fund balance, out of our own budget, allowed us to cushion. So you'll see at the bottom right there, in 2023, we had a 45% fund balance. Well, we had $50 million in ESSER funds. So it created a false sense of security for not only Riverview Gardens, but many, many school districts. And so you see the decline as we go forward. In FY23, it was 45%, then it went to 37. In 25, it was 24%. This year, if we do nothing, it's at 17%. And then you see it steadily decline over the next 3 years. So in answer to your original question, the repercussions is a declining fund balance where we will actually be in the negative. And we as a district do not want to get there. So many of the things that we have brought forward last school year allowed us to cut approximately $13 million from our budget, and we need to continue to do that.
So as this is my 3rd year and I'm still learning a whole lot, the 15% fund balance is a Riverview Garden School District policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Meaning another school district policy could have another fund balance policy so that could vary. That varies from district to district throughout the state.
Yes, ma'am. Different school districts set different policies. Most range between 10 to 15%. Some are a little lower, some are a little higher. But that is a district set policy that was set under the special board, the special administrative board that we had once the state took over our district.
But for the state standard, it can't be below 3%. And the
Yes.
reason there's a big difference between 15 and 3. It just seemed arbitrary to me. But you did explain it was something that the state board, special administrative board, came up with to try to get us out of these financial situations. Okay, so that's the only question I have right now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lane. I know Dr. May had her hand up, but I don't see it raised. Dr. May, I don't want to skip you before I go, but do you have any questions?
I was just going to ask about with the building use, would we be obligated, since we are a public entity, to do some type of bidding process where individuals can bid to have the space, and we kind of extend it to the person who has the highest, that will, provide us the most amount of money for it?
And Dr. May, you're referring to Danforth, and yes. I am aware of a bidding process that needs to take place for that. I believe that the board can decide how they want to use the building. I brought a plan forward to use that space as a college or university satellite location to feed back into the community. Also to give our juniors and seniors an opportunity to take dual enrollment classes. But I do not believe that there is a policy that states that there must be a bidding process. But I will make sure, Dr. May, and then inform the board.
Okay, because I know in the past we've sold buildings and I didn't know what type of process was used to make sure that others had an opportunity for it, whether it was a church or what the fire district got. You know, I wasn't aware of some type of equitable process to make sure that we were getting the bang for our buck on that. And then I guess as far as some of the other suggestions that's being made, has your team been able to investigate the impact of, I guess, what was it? It wasn't the custodians. The group, was it the custodians that you were considering
Yes.
like the individuals that might have been close to retirement and all, has your team been able to make those assessments as well?
We are still assessing. You're referring to the idea of contracting custodial services.
Yes.
And our employees that may be close to retirement. We are still gathering that information. We've gathered the information on the use of sick days as well as the use of their retirement and how they can use it. And I sent that information to the board earlier this week in the board brief. So we are still investigating those custodians that are close to retirement and giving them an option. And I will bring that information to the board once this comes forward as an item for discussion. It was previously presented as an item for information, but once we bring it for an item for discussion, I will have that information for the board as well as the community.
And do we have a warehouse of supplies where that could help reduce some of the costs, where the schools just go to that supply area and get those items? Because I know in the past, school districts would just buy stuff because they knew that if they budget didn't reflect spending, then the state would take it back. So they would just buy and buy and buy so they can at least show that they had some spending. But then, it was supplies that would be in a storage somewhere. So.
Right. So one of the ideas that I will bring forward, Ms. Terry kind of brought it up as well, is centralized purchasing. And we currently do not have a centralized purchasing procedure. We are looking into that because we also believe that that would save the district money if we could do centralized purchasing. And that is where the district makes the purchase in bulk. And then as the schools need them, they order them from the district. And then we kind of distribute them based on the orders. So we are looking into that as well, which is called centralized purchasing.
And what about do we have data on excessive copying from schools? Like if they are doing a lot of heavy copying and printing and things like that, could be an area of reduction as well?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
all of our copiers are rented throughout the district, and it does calculate the number of copies that are made in each building. We even have it where our employees have to use a key card to make copies, so we can kind of identify it to the person. So it does register that, and we are looking into that as well.
Okay.
There are many things across the board that we are looking into. This is not simply just reduced personnel. Now, please understand that since personnel is over 60% of our budget, any organization would have to reduce personnel if they're having a budget crisis or a budget issue. And so we are not only looking at reducing our personnel, we're looking at every aspect. If you notice, last year we reduced in salaries, purchase services, and supplies. That we reduced over those three kind of areas to the tune of about $13 million. And so if you recall, Dr. May, when this first became an issue, it was brought to our attention by our interim CFO that we were in a $23 million spending deficit if we didn't do any reduction. So responsibly, we started making those reductions, and we will continue to make them so that we can continue to keep the district financially viable.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll go next and then we'll have Ms. Lane again and then we'll have Ms. Tisworth. So I do have a couple of questions. The first one is, Ms. Terry, what are tax anticipation notes?
Where we would have to borrow money to make payroll.
Okay, so I noticed that was in your presentation. Okay, so you borrow money. Okay, the next question is, how much of the general fund is food service, the food service?
Okay, currently, I think based on, well, I can tell you 24, 25, based on those audited numbers, it's 5 million.
Okay,
And so that would make our GOB 13 million.
okay,
Yeah, 13 million is what I kind of what I have it broken down when I meet with Miss Jackson monthly. I have it broken down by the fund balance. And the last report I do have with me, it was 30.9 million for Fund 1 and 469,000 for Fund 2, with the food service being 5.8 million, which is we can only use for food service, and the 200,000 for student activities. So that's why I say keep in mind that the food service fund is really masking. It's a part of that 20.4 million, but we can't use it, but only for food service.
right,
Perfect.
okay. Okay, and the next question is, so in your presentation, will the plan to reduce spending get us the 7 million that we need? The current plan that we have?
It's hard to project that right now,
Okay, all right.
but continue as soon as I have viable projections, I will present them.
So Ms. Williams, as we finalize all of those numbers, as well as, so what Ms. Terry had on the screen are areas we were looking at. We will not, it could be that some of those areas are not viable for us because it's not going to generate a large enough savings. But as we bring the plan forward, we will kind of land on numbers. Now, understand that even when you land on those numbers, it's a give and take. So it could be a little more, it could be a little less, but we will have firmer numbers for the board to consider once we bring the plan forward.
Okay, and last question, what is the age for the seniors that apply for the tax freeze?
62 and older.
Okay, 62. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
And
you.
they have to, and the caveat, they have to live in the house as well. And they have to reapply every year.
All right, thank you.
And also, I do want to mention, when you talk about the senior tax freeze, it's 105,000 this year, and they have to apply every year. So each year will increase because each year typically the value of the house increases. So when the value increases, but we are frozen at a certain percentage of collection, you will see that 105 increase over years.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Lane and then Ms. Tisworth.
I spoke once, Ms. Chair, so please let Ms. Titsworth speak first and then I'll speak after her.
Okay, Ms. Tisworth.
Okay, thank you. You said we have a 15% expenditure that the board set when the state was controlling the board.
Yes, ma'am.
And there is each school district varies in that amount. Now, could we decrease our expenditures to 5%? Not 5 to 10%.
So Ms. Tisworth, you're referring to the board policy that says the district must maintain a 15% fund balance. That was a board decision. Was a special administrative board decision at the time. And I think because originally when the state took over the district, we had a financial crisis as well then. Once the district was able to be established, the special administrative board said, well, let's set it 5 times higher than the state sets it so that we will not get in trouble again, because that should start setting red flags. My understanding is that if we had a policy then that says if we were below a certain percentage, there would have been red flags knowing that we were losing money and that we were going to lose our accreditation. So my understanding as the SAB, Special Administrative Board, decided that when we were under state control. In answer to your question, the board can move that that particular amount any way that it would like. I would recommend, however, to the board that we don't set a very low standard for our district, because we need to know that, you know, finances need to be addressed long before we hit a 5% or even a 10%. But definitely it is a board decision to decide that. The state decides the 3%. It is up to the board where they want to send set the fund balance percentage according to policy.
So 10% is not a bad figure, is it?
Well, I will say this. I will say, with the fact that it's restricted and unrestricted funds that make up the fund balance, I don't think that that would be good for the district, honestly, because like I said, I think it's masked with, if the food service fund is doing so well, that is why we're currently projected to end at 17%. So in reality, you have to look at the money that you have in Fund 1 and 2, because those are the only funds that are interchangeable. And right now we have 13.9 million. Last year we spent 10 million. So if we spend 10 million again, that will only leave us with 3 million. So regardless of the calculations for the fund balance, we still could be in a situation.
Okay.
And when you think about, Ms. Titsworth, when you think about the federal funding that we receive, that varies. We thought we were going to receive a certain amount. We received less than that this year. With the current administration, it could continue to go down and decrease. And also, when you think about the senior tax freeze, those are areas that we can't really anticipate what it's going to drop to. It's very unpredictable. So I would caution the board in changing the policy. Again, it is up to the board where they want to set that, but there are too many unknowns that we can't control. So I would caution the board in changing that policy.
Okay, and then I have another question. She showed a graph where there were less students enrolled and more teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to save on our budget, could we just kind of get, and those more teachers would be, a lot of them are substitute teachers, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Uncertified teachers. Now, could we get rid of some of those? But why come we can't staff according to our student needs?
We are staffing according to our student needs, Ms. Titsworth. Every year, the district, twice a year, as a matter of fact, Riverview Gardens, as well as every district that I've ever been a part of, I know Missouri does it as well as Illinois, on the last Wednesday in September and the last Wednesday in January, we look at enrollment. And the enrollment, the state looks at enrollment on at those particular times to decide funding. So in other words, how much money are they going to give each district based on student enrollment? At the same time, we also look at our staffing at that time, because if we've got a decrease in student enrollment, then that means we have a certain amount of teacher allocations that the district budgets for. And so we do look at that. So that, if you recall 2 weeks ago when I brought a plan forward, it was the staffing plan. It was to reduce 10 teacher allocations. And those teacher allocations are currently staffed by substitute teachers. And so it was the substitute teachers that we were reducing, but it's really 10 teacher allocations, because our enrollment says that we are down about 400 students, and therefore we must reduce to match that. So we do adjust our staffing based on student enrollment. And that's why I brought the plan forward to reduce 10 teacher allocations based on the staffing plan. That was at the elementary school. We will bring one forth at the end of this month for secondary. We are looking at that enrollment already and deciding, do we add teacher allocations, or do we reduce teacher allocations? District-wide, again, we are down for about 400 students. And so responsibly, we have to reduce staffing based on that. And they are substitute teachers. There are substitute teachers who are filling the position, but in our budget, they are teacher allocations.
Okay, so when we reduce the substitute teachers, can we look at their how they are, their progress, how they're I mean, don't reduce, get rid of the good ones and keep the bad ones. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes, you know, you have a evaluation from the principal or what have you. And if you get rid of the good ones and keep the bad ones, then how are we striving to our kids' education when we sit up there with the bad subs?
So our
You see what I'm
goal
saying?
is, yes, our goal is to place highly qualified teachers, certified teachers in front of our students. Right now, we have about a little bit over 70 substitute teachers in our district that are helping us in terms of the teacher shortage that we are experiencing, and not only Riverview Gardens, but across the country. And so we are. I agree with you that the substitute teachers that are really making an impact, we do want to hang on to them, and we do want to keep them in our district. And so we will work to make sure that we are retaining those that are really making a difference. And I will say this, some of our substitute teachers are really doing a fabulous job with our students. So hats off to our subs who stepped in at a time when we needed substitute teachers, but they are really doing a good job. And we will look at the performance and we will make decisions based on that. Does that answer your question, Ms. Tisworth?
Yeah, but my other questions, I just save it for the board meeting.
Okay, all right.
Because I don't, okay, then we're talking about eliminating the custodian's jobs, but we still got to buy the supplies, like we still have to buy the food for the food service job. Now, when we still have to buy the supplies, how much are we spending still buying the supplies?
So I'm going to let Mr. Scheid speak to that, but I do want to say, we're not talking about getting rid of the custodial jobs. When an organization is selected, if the board should approve that, to contract out custodial service, one of the requirements will be that they pick up our custodial staff, just like we did when we went with our food service. Food service used to be completed by district. When we decided to go out and get a contractor to come in, we made an agreement with that contractor to pick up all of our cafeteria staff, and they did that. And so we will do the same thing with custodial services, should the board agree for us to contract out. Mr. Scheid, do you want to speak to the Mrs. Tisworth's question related to supplies?
Yes. So yeah, the district will still continue to use the same amount of supplies that it has, because obviously we have students in all of our buildings and they are consuming those supplies. So, you know, we're going to have trash cans with trash bags in them. We're going to have toilet tissue, paper towels, and it's going to continue to be consumed as it is today. Where we could save on the supply side would be the fact that our contracted provider, you know, should we go that direction, does tend to get deeper discounts on supplies than we do. So there could be roughly a 5% savings, just because they are buying in a larger quantity, because they're not just buying for Riverview Gardens, they're buying for many other clients that they have. So we could potentially see a savings on supplies, but they're not going to be eliminated. Just like we're not eliminating the custodians, we're simply having the provider provide the custodians. There's still cost associated with that, so it doesn't go away. Where we're really saving the money, where the reduction is really being captured, is in the areas of benefits, so like health insurance and so forth, and then of course the retirement system. We pay a sizable amount of money for all of our employees into the retirement system. So by making this change, our employees would become employees of that company, and they would bear the responsibility of providing insurance and whatever retirement incentives they may have. I hope that helped
No.
answer your question.
So the employees stay at the position they're in. Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, our intent is for whatever company takes over this responsibility, the intent is for them to hire our existing employees. So our employees would still continue to work in the district for the district. What would change would be that they're no longer a direct employee of the school district. They would be an employee of whatever company will be operating that custodial function.
and this company would do they keep that same rate of pay that they're getting here in the school district, or do they decrease it?
That I can't speak to until we reach that point. But typically, what tends to happen, and I can't be held to this, but let me give you a little context. What typically happens is the contracted custodial service companies will typically pay a little bit more than what we do. However, where they get a little bit of a savings is the fact that they don't have the robust level of insurance and retirement incentives that we have. So that's kind of the trade-off. So that employee may be able to make a few more dollars an hour, but they're not going to have, that golden egg at the end of their career for having a pension out there. They would have to utilize other things such as 401ks and things like that for the retirement options.
Okay. Thank you.
And Ms. Lane?
Yes, ma'am. So earlier at the very beginning of our meeting, we had a discussion regarding board norms. And this is the part where it's going to be perhaps uncomfortable for some. But in that discussion of the board norms, that's based on board policy BBF, school board member ethics. And I'm going to ask that we all review that, because there are some issues that we need to be clear, I believe, as we continue our transitions. I will not read the whole BBF, but under the paragraph of duty of loyalty, board members will place the interests of the district and its students above their personal interest. Board members will avoid nepotism and conflicts of interest and will take only those actions that will advance the district mission and vision. That's real specific. Under duty of public trust, board members will avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And I read that because we're in a time of change. So I think we should keep all of that in mind when we're talking about the progression and success of the Riverview Garden School District. Now, and I will, in full transparency, I won't get into it right now, but I did have a conversation with the St. Louis County Board of Elections this past week regarding the ballot language that we may put or possibly put on our election for the coming school year, the coming election in April. So I just want us to be aware that we represent the Riverview Garden School District, and we should do everything that we can to honor the oath of office that we took to represent the Riverview Garden School District. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Lane. Do we have any? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Ms. Williams. I was just going to just say that concludes the items for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anything else from the board members? That was our last item for today. If there's nothing else regarding the budget, may I have a motion regarding the quarterly budget update, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I so move.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved by Ms. Jackson and seconded by Ms. Lane to adjourn our board meeting. Any discussion?
Before we go, I do want to say, I want to congratulate our district, board chair. I want to congratulate the teachers and the administrators of this district. Riverview Gardens was scored higher than some of the districts in Missouri. We were 1 point away from full accreditation, and that is such a celebration. And I do want to mention that our teachers worked hard. Our administrators in the schools work hard. The administrators at the district level worked hard. Everyone in these buildings are working hard to get Riverview Gardens where it needs to be. And I just want to say we were 1 point. And while that is like, oh, we almost made it, it is also a celebration that we are up 22 points higher than we were 2 years ago. And that is a celebration. Riverview Gardens will be fully accredited. And I am, it is everything in me that we will be fully accredited. I want to say congratulations to the staff members who worked hard for that. And that is a celebration. So congratulations to Riverview Gardens. We worked hard. We will continue to work hard for the students and staff of this community. Thank you, Ms. Williams, but I also saw Dr. May's hand go up. I don't know if you saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, yes, I just want to ask for clarification. Was the full accreditation point you're referencing, is that for last school year, calendar year, or the 3-year average? We were still a point away.
No, Dr. May, was for last school year.
Okay.
And so, but they were given accreditation status this year. If you were moved up, they would have given it to you, but they weren't moving districts down. And so next school year, the end of the year, we will take the MAP and ELCs once again. They will take those scores with the 2 previous scores and then average them to see where all school districts land. And then they will either move schools up or move them back. And it's just a celebration. So while we almost made it, I also want to say that was hard work. We are getting there and we will be there. And I could not be more proud of this school district and everybody that feeds into it. So thank you for your hard work from the board all the way through throughout this district. Thank you for your hard work and your commitment. Sorry, Ms. Williams, but I had to say that. I had to celebrate. I'm so excited about that. So thank you.
Ms. King, roll call vote, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Tisworth,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Dr. May,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
and Ms. Williams.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. The meeting is adjourned, and congratulations. You all have a
Go
great.
Riverview Gardens, go.
Woo-hoo.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Bye.